The ratings are in for Saturday's edition of AEW Collision, and while the show was preempted, it is the lowest rated and viewed episode in AEW Collision history. Major plans for WWE NXT when the show debuts on the CW network later on this fall. We'll let you know all of the details on that. Tony Khan opens up on his meeting with Shane McMahon and just how this photo got out there. Bryan Danielson also comments on Shane McMahon possibly joining All Elite Wrestling. Another injury update on Jacob Fatu after his SummerSlam main event possible injury scare. Nigel McGinness opens up about his pro wrestling future. Does he have any desire to continue to wrestle? Plus, Raw could be set to undergo a major change every time WWE runs an international premium live event. Hey guys, welcome back to Wrestling News 365. Hope everyone is doing very well. As always, plenty of news stories to get into in the world of professional wrestling. Let's begin with the ratings for AEW Collision this weekend. Of course, it was expected that the numbers would not be great considering the show was taped. It was also preempted. Also, it was the same day as SummerSlam, even though the show did not go head-to-head. And the viewership number is the lowest in the series history. WrestleNomics is reporting that AEW Collision drew 189,000 viewers on August 3rd. This number is down from the 382,000 viewers the show drew last Saturday. The August 3rd episode was a taped episode and aired at 5 p.m. Eastern, as opposed to its normal time slot of 8 p.m. Eastern. The viewership number is the lowest in series history. Saturday's episode scored a 0.08 rating in the 18 to 49 demographic. This is down from the 0.12 demo rating the number scored on July 27th. Now, Collision finished 22nd on cable for the evening. As I mentioned, while preempted, it is the lowest total viewership and second lowest 18 to 49 number in Collision's history. In terms of competition, Collision, as I mentioned, ranked number 22 among cable programs in the 18 to 49 for Saturday. USA Network's coverage of the Olympics took 6 of the top 8 slots. In terms of comparisons to prior weeks, as I mentioned, it is down 51% in terms of total viewership from last week's 382,000. This episode versus the trailing 4-week average was down 50% too. The current actual Q3 total viewership average compared to this time last year is also down 25%. In terms of the 18 to 49 comparisons, as I mentioned, it is down 33% from last week's 0.212 number. This week versus the trailing 4-week average is also down 33%. In terms of the quarter-hour ratings, these come courtesy of WrestleNomics, so shout out to them and be sure to subscribe to their Patreon service. As you can expect, this isn't pretty viewing for AEW fans when it comes to all of the numbers significantly down from the last 90 days trend. Interestingly enough, actually the total viewership is actually close to the average of the 18 to 49 demographic number over the last 90-day trend. As you can see, the show did grow slightly as it continued, the high point coming in the main event with the Beast Mortos and Undisputed Kingdom versus Darby Allin, FTR and Mark Briscoe, and the post-match angle involving the Acclaimed and Billy Gunn. There was also a bit of a peak when it came to the Top Flight MXM collection and Layla Gray backstage angle, also Taya Valkyrie versus Thunder Rosa. This is also where we saw peaks in the 18 to 49 demographic as well. So what are your thoughts when it comes to these numbers for AEW Collision? Is it what you expected? Is it worse than you expected? Let me know your thoughts about it in the comments section below. Now, big plans coming for WWE NXT when the show moves to the CW network later on this year. WWE NXT is set to move to a new home starting in October, with the show leaving USA Network and set to premiere on the CW network beginning with the October 1st episode of the show. It was recently reported that WWE was planning to treat the premiere episode of the show as a major event, and there has now been an update on the shows that appear to confirm that. Taking to Twitter, Shawn Michaels announced that the premiere episode of NXT on the CW will take place in the All-State Arena in Chicago, Illinois. In addition to that, the first CW show being on the road, it was also announced that the second episode of the show on the CW network on October 8th will take place in St. Louis, Missouri. In a follow-up announcement, WWE confirmed that CM Punk will be appearing in his hometown of Chicago, and Randy Orton will be appearing in his hometown of St. Louis, Missouri. Of course, the October 8th episode of NXT is set to go head-to-head against AEW Dynamite Title Tuesday. Here's what Shawn Michaels had to say on social media.
Before we take off, gotta let you know, not only am I flying out, but NXT is now going on the road. The launch of CW happens in Chicago, Illinois. All-State Arena, October 1st. What's better than 1 week on the road with NXT? 2 weeks on the road. October 8th, St. Louis, get ready because we're coming your way. That's right, 2 weeks in a row, NXT, the CW launch, we're coming your way. Everybody get ready. NXT's been on fire the last year. But now, NXT on CW, gonna be a whole different animal.
Now, interestingly, NXT's plans when it came to these arena shows may have been a little bit different until not too far long ago. WrestleVotes has tweeted out the following this evening, saying Shawn Michaels has announced the first NXT on the CW show will take place at the Allstate Arena in Chicago. Source states this is a development that transpired over the last few months, as WWE was initially planning on hosting NXT Deadline on December 15 in Chicago. Interesting change, but what are your thoughts on these plans to have these first 2 weeks inside arenas at the Allstate Arena in Chicago involving CM Punk, at St. Louis, Missouri, involving Randy Orton as well? What do you think it means when it comes head-to-head with AEW Dynamite that second week, and what kind of numbers do you think they're going to draw inside the arena as well as in terms of the ratings on the CW too? Now, speaking of AEW, Tony Khan has opened up about that infamous now picture involving himself and Shane McMahon, as well as their recent meeting. On July 31st, Fightful Select and WrestleTalk reported that Tony Khan met with Shane McMahon over possibilities moving forward. A photo of the two in a meeting was posted online. Speaking on Sonado and Cap, Tony Khan was asked about the meeting. He said, quote, "As I understand, he's not doing anything with WWE, and I had a really nice visit with him. I heard from a lot of people that he was very interested in talking, and it had become frankly a big media story to the point where I was getting asked on the record questions about it, and I answered them just like I'll answer you now. In advance of I had never met him, and my first conversation with him, there was a lot of buzz about this. I thought it would certainly be worth talking, and I have a lot of respect for him. I had never met him, but he seemed like a really nice guy. I sat down with him. He was fantastic. I really enjoyed talking with him. He is a very smart person about wrestling, and I thought he was a great guy. We have a lot of mutual friends, and we both happen to be in Dallas. A mutual friend linked us up, who is one of the bigger names in pro wrestling, and that friend put us on a group chat. I had a really nice talk, and I really enjoyed visiting with him. Clearly, there was a lot of interest in it. Somebody in the middle of talking at an airport conference room, somebody just busted in and took a photo. I think that's fine. I enjoyed the conversation, and there's nothing wrong with a couple of people getting together and talking about wrestling. That's part of what makes wrestling so great. There is a lot of talk about, and we're all fans at heart. It's a big thing. It's exciting. It was nice to talk to him. I don't know what's to come, but it's an exciting time in AEW. Now, of course, as of right now, it's unknown if Shane McMahon will appear on AEW television. One person who Shane McMahon has worked with a lot in the past in WWE, of course, is Bryan Danielson. And he's also had his say on the possibility of Shane McMahon arriving in All Elite Wrestling. With the possibility of a McMahon in AEW, Bryan Danielson has commented during an interview with the Gorilla Position, saying, quote, "I'm open to working with anybody. I don't have beef with anybody, 100%. With Khan sharing a close relationship with Danielson, the AEW star was asked if he knew any details of the meeting, responding, quote, "1, if I knew, I would not tell you. 2, I don't know." It was interesting because Tony mentioned to me after the photo came out, "I didn't want to tell you this before, but I met with Shane McMahon. I didn't say this, but I was like, yeah, I know. The picture is everywhere." To be fair, I'm not aware of a lot of things because I don't go on Twitter or social media. McMahon and Danielson, of course, do have history together, having both been authority figures on WWE SmackDown from 2016 to 2018. So, what are your thoughts? Do you think Shane McMahon is going to arrive in AEW? Of course, it was recently reported that talent in WWE believe McMahon will at least make an appearance in AEW. If he does, when do you think that's going to be? Let me know your thoughts about that one too. Now, Jacob Fatu, a bit more of an injury update on the Samoan Werewolf. As Cody Rhodes and Solo Sikoa duked it out for the undisputed WWE Championship during the main event of SummerSlam, there was a bit of an injury scare, though it didn't involve Rhodes or Sikoa. Instead, it involved one half of the WWE Tag Team Champions, Jacob Fatu, one of the many members of the Bloodline, to interfere in the match. In the latter stages, Fatu would hit Rhodes with a top rope splash through the announcer's table and emerge holding his leg. Fatu's night would end there, and he would later be spotted in a walking boot after the show. Since then, there's been plenty of questions on how serious, if at all, Fatu's injury is, and whether or not Fatu was going to have more involvement in the match, and that was subsequently scrapped. On Tuesday morning's Wrestling Observer Radio, Dave Meltzer attempted to put the first factor to bed, stating that those in WWE were of the belief that Fatu's injured leg wasn't that bad. Still, it remains unclear whether Fatu will have to miss any time in the ring, or if he will continue to be available for matches and angles. Meltzer also confirmed that Fatu's announcer's table splash was intended to write him out of the rest of the match, and for good reason, as WWE didn't want any interactions between Fatu and Roman Reigns, who made his return at the end of the match. This is because WWE was looking for the focus to be on Reigns and Sikoa, who Reigns hit with a Superman punch, which led to Rose defeating Sikoa and retaining the undisputed WWE Championship. Reigns is scheduled to appear on SmackDown later this week, and it's expected Sikoa, Fatu, if he's healthy, and the rest of the bloodline will be there to confront him. Now, Nigel McGinness. Could we see Nigel McGinness wrestle inside of an AEW ring? Well, due to medical complications, the former Ring of Honor World Champion Nigel McGinness retired in 2011. He has remained active in the business as he has transitioned to commentary. McGinness signed with AEW in 2023, and he currently calls the action on AEW Collision. In March 2024, McGinness said that he was back in the ring and he felt perfectly okay. Speaking on Insight with Chris Van Vliet, McGinness was asked whether he was working towards a return match. Quote, "I was open to the suggestion, open to the idea. When I originally signed with AEW, I took a flight cross country with Tony, and he said, I've got to swear you to secrecy. I'm telling you something that I can't, and you can't tell another soul. We're doing Wembley Stadium." I was like, oh my God. Then the idea occurred to me. Could you? Should you? Because Wembley Stadium 1992, that was an epiphany for me. That was a moment. I went there with my friend, and I sat back 50 rows back, and I just remember having this strange sensation, this weird feeling, this belief that somehow I knew I was going to be a professional wrestler. I think maybe you've had a similar idea yourself, but it stuck with me, certainly. So to go back to that venue and wrestle would just be off the charts. But the only thing that really made sense was Bryan Danielson, and he broke his arm because he's got osteoporosis, McGinness said. McGinness was then asked to comment on what would have happened had Bryan Danielson not broke his arm ahead of AEW All In 2023. He noted that he was not sure, and a lot of it was out of his control. McGinness also looked back on his past with Danielson. He said, quote, "I don't know. I mean, there's so much of it is out of my control, whether he wants to wrestle me. I always thought it was kind of funny. Someone asked him about that time if he'd ever wrestle me again, and he said, if I ever wrestled Nigel, I'd break his neck. Then 3 weeks later, he breaks his arm, which I thought was karma. I've always thought as well, sometimes you get couples and the girl is always jealous and blaming the guy for cheating. You're cheating on me, you are thinking of cheating. I mean, it always turns out she was thinking of it. So I think maybe when Bryan said, if I wrestle him, I'll break his neck, he probably remembers those lariats and thinks, I don't want any of that. Go back and watch that match at Liverpool where we had that incredible match. There was a time after he ran my head into the ring post, I rolled back in, blood pouring, looked him in the face, and perhaps the only time I've ever seen true fear in his eyes. So yeah, I think he was having a flashback, PTSD from that, so I make jokes about it. Don't think he's ever going to wrestle me, to be perfectly honest, McGinness said. When asked whether a match with Bryan Danielson in Wembley Stadium would be the terms for an in-ring comeback, McGinness noted that it felt that way. He also stated that he was inspired by veterans like Christian Cage and Adam Copeland, who proved that they had not lost a step. McGinness emphasized that he did not want to step away from commentary and he did not want to become a full-time wrestler. Quote, "It certainly feels like that, you know what I mean? It certainly feels like that. All roads to me, I think, certainly aim towards him because there's so much talent in AEW, so many young guns who deserve those spots. I'm very inspired by Christian Cage, obviously, and Adam Copeland, as much as I'd hate to admit it. These guys can show they haven't lost a step. They can still go, and all the knowledge that they have, they can convey and pass on to the next generation by being in the ring with them as well. I've been like, wow, getting back in the ring, I feel like, wow, is it a strange realization when you figure out that the only thing stopping you from being a wrestler is you? Now, having said that, I've certainly got no desire to step away from the announcing booth. I don't want to become a full-time wrestler. I don't really want to wrestle anymore, to be honest with you, other than beating Bryan, obviously, because that's our story, that's our history." Additionally, McGinness was asked about potentially ending his career on his terms, and he said it was a possibility. He noted that he is as grateful for his retirement tour, but his career did not end the way that he thought it would. He said, quote, "That's definitely a possibility. I mean, you mentioned before we started filming that you watched the documentary. It was rather, I guess, a weird way to end my career. I was very grateful to all of the independent promoters who booked me on my final retirement tour, but I certainly never imagined that my last match would be at a small volunteer fire department in West Virginia. But yeah, you don't get to choose it sometimes. Now, as of this recording, there is no word on whether Nigel McGinness will return to the ring, but we'll have to wait and see, of course. And finally, an update when it comes to Monday Night Raw, particularly after international premium live events. Now, a big change to Raw after selected PLEs has been discussed behind the scenes that would see the show taped in advance. Now, the change, if approved, would affect the episodes of Raw that come after an international PLE. Currently, WWE runs international PLEs in Saudi Arabia and has run the last 2 installments of Backlash away from the US and Canada. WWE's also run 2023 Money in the Bank in London, England, with Bash in Berlin set to take place in Germany later on this month. According to PW Nexus, the discussed plans would see Raw taped on a Sunday following an international PLE. The plan would allow talent more time to recoup and recover, whereas they would currently be in a position where they have to be back in the US for a live Raw, certainly just days after. Now, while the plan is under discussion, it isn't cleared or approved at the time of recording, although if we get any more details, of course, we'll let you know in the future. But there you go, guys. Latest pro wrestling news for you. Be sure to smash a like on the like button. Be sure to subscribe, bottom right-hand corner. As always, let me know your thoughts in the comment section below, and I'll speak to you again very, very soon.
Hey guys, thank you for watching, listening, streaming, or however you come across this video today. Be sure to click on the video on the right there to watch our next video, or click the bottom there to subscribe, or the bottom right hand corner. Thank you very much, and I'll speak to you again very soon.